All right, what's up, everybody? 138 MMA here. Now, you asked for it, so you got it. Here we are. I'm here with Kassius Kayne. He's going to break down not only his career in short, but he's also going to talk about the matchup that Brennan Ward has coming up with Sabah Homasi at Bellator 290, because Kayne is the most recent opponent for Brennan Ward, and that would be a pretty good expert to ask on what he thinks Brennan Ward's going to do in that matchup. So, Kayne, why don't you go and introduce yourself to the fans and tell them a little bit about your career?
I'm Kassius Kayne, MMA fighter, Muay Thai fighter, Jiu-Jitsu, just love MMA. Been fighting for about 10 years now. It's cool. But yeah, 10 years. Just still chasing it. Recently fought in Bellator. Just staying active, looking to fight anytime.
Awesome. And so where is it you train currently?
I train at Undisputed Boxing.
Undisputed Boxing, okay. And that is located where?
132nd and C,
okay.
Omaha, Nebraska.
Omaha, Nebraska, right on.
Riley.
Oh, yeah, yep, Actually, he actually stopped by the other day, but so that's awesome. Okay, so boxing is kind of where you've been training a lot lately, then, it sounds like.
Yeah, I focus a lot on my boxing. I actually supposed to have a bare knuckle fight, bare knuckle boxing.
Yeah, wasn't it bare knuckle 33?
Yeah, here in Omaha.
Mm-hmm.
But my opponent eventually had a car accident or something, so he didn't show up. So that was really disappointing, but because I trained that whole camp for that fight, so I just kind of took a little time off, but I'm getting back into it. I think they're talking maybe June for a kickboxing match, so we'll see.
Awesome. So kickboxing is more where you're looking at going next.
I'll take anything really. MMA,
awesome.
Kickboxing, bare knuckle, I don't care. I'm just ready to fight.
Perfect. All right, so you fought Brennan Ward in his most recent fight. He's had 2 fights back since his 5-year hiatus. Obviously, we know about his story. He went through that battle with drugs and addiction, and he came back after 5 years. First fight he had back, Bellator kind of tried to walk him into a victory, gave him somebody that was coming off a lot of losses. But then they bring you in, and you got a pretty good record. Coming in there, a good challenge for the guy. I know you were looking to scrap with him. What kind of things was it about Brennan Ward that surprised you, and what kind of things do you think he's going to be able to bring to the table in this next matchup with Homasi?
Oh man, that fight was really fun. I was looking to stand up with him, really utilize my boxing skills. I knew he threw a lot of power shots, big shots, how MMA guys, they like to throw those overhand rights and stuff. So I was looking to get inside and use my uppercuts, hooks, and just box him, move him around. But he actually, right out the gate, when I first engaged, he shot for a takedown, which surprised me. But I mean, I always know that they're gonna want to shoot, feel my hands.
Yeah.
So I kind of just expect that, but I wasn't expecting him to really shoot right away. I thought maybe he'd box a little bit and then shoot. So yeah, that kind of threw me off. But when we got to the ground, I'm pretty high level on the ground. I roll with a lot of black belts and stuff, so I'm working on my brown belt. So I was isolating the arm bar, but he felt what I was doing, so he pulled out and we went back to the feet. But then I don't know, it was just so fast, it goes so fast yet so slow at the same time, So
definitely,
I just kind of got in my head. I got really frustrated, so then I didn't stick to the game plan that we had. The box, use my jab, stay out on the outside, and then when he goes to shoot, just those like sidestep hooks and uppercuts and stuff, which is perfect. The way his style was perfect for that game plan. But
sidestepping hooks,
yeah, just like step off hook and just
hit the uppercut.
Hit the uppercut when he's going down to hit that angle and stuff. But like I said, I got in my head and I just got really angry and I didn't fight smart.
Definitely. And you can kind of assume that going into that fight, thinking he's going to go back to the old Brennan Ward, who would love to get in a scrap, which is about everybody.
Right.
Didn't use his wrestling as much as he should have before that hiatus. So going in there makes sense that he would surprise you with the takedown. And so that matchup made it to the second round. The first round. So when you guys got to the ground, and like you said, you kind of told me this a little bit before we started the video. He actually is a lot bigger than you are, because you're naturally a fairly small welterweight. Is that correct?
Yeah, I really only walk around like 170, 75. This is like the highest I ever get. So I'm pretty lean in there. But so on fight day, I was even lower than that. So I had to eat before I weighed in, which is
that's insane. Most people aren't eating before weighing in.
It's like high school stuff. You have to eat before you get on the scale and stuff. So that was in my head too. I was kind of like, man, I'm really light. But he came in, he was big. He was like 190, maybe 195. But,
wow, yeah.
We were fairly the same strength though. That was
right.
What was crazy. Even though he was heavier than me, we were pretty equally strength. So I didn't feel like he had a big advantage on the ground. Like he was just laying on me, kind of like I'm fat. But,
yeah, I mean, it's hard to move somebody that weighs more than 20.
And I mean, I don't. That's your game. Stick to it. You gotta do what you do to win the fight.
Works.
So you just gotta adapt and adjust. And so coming on in the second round, he rocked me a little bit in the first. I was kind of, the ref came over to me and said, watch your strikes and stuff. I was like, I was fine, you know. He hit me with a big overhand chop, but I felt like I recovered pretty fast. And we ended up back on the ground again because I hit him with the knee, and then we went back to the ground, and then we scrapped a little bit on the ground, and then that was in the first round. Came out in the second round. I started back on my feet, you know, piecing him up with the jab and keeping him on the outside. And I don't know why I didn't just stay right there. Like I said, stick to the game plan, but
it's tough.
There's so much going on at the same time, you know. You're
especially with the bright lights, right?
Bright lights and, you know, anxiety and just like knowing that in your head you kind of got a little rock, so you got to be careful, you know, you got to watch yourself. So it's just so much going on at the same time. But.
And a Bellator main card fight, is that the highest level of MMA that you've competed at, right?
Oh yeah, that's definitely the biggest show I've ever been on was Bellator. I mean, I fought the Midwest MMA, like LFA, stuff like that, like Missouri, Kansas City, like stuff like that, you know.
Absolutely. But Bellator, that's like the second biggest in the world,
right,
you know?
You know, it's Bellator 1, UFC, like.
Yep. Those are the top three right there. Just Bellator 1 and UFC. Then you got your like PFLs, your Ryzen, stuff like that. But like
stuff like that, you know.
That's like the top stuff.
It was right there, and it was kind of a surprise because I took that Disorderly Conduct MMA show, Dynasty Combat, in April. So then in June they're like hit me up for this Bellator fight, which was like, well,
2 months after a fight.
Yeah, it was kind of out of nowhere. I wasn't really expecting because I won that fight, but it wasn't like I knocked the dude out. Or I won. You know, expecting fashion for them to be like, hey, you know, so it was kind of unexpected, but that's the game. You know?
That is the game, especially when I think they're having a hard time. They were having a hard time finding people for Brennan Ward because they didn't want to throw him right into the top 5 in Bellator right away.
Because they wanted, you know, because they know what he was coming off of and stuff like that. So understand they weren't giving him like an easy fight, but they wanted him to have like you know.
They want to work up the levels.
Right.
His first fight might have been easy. You were the next step up. Right. So now they're throwing him in there against Sabah Homasi, and this will be on February 4th. So Sabah Homasi is known for being kind of a wild striker, right? He throws power in his hands, big brawler style, doesn't really grapple a whole lot. Now, with Brennan Ward surprising you with the takedowns, do you think Brennan Ward's going to get sucked into a brawl with Homasi, or do you think that Brennan Ward's going to implement a smart game plan and work in his wrestling to get the win?
So at the end of that fight, in the back, when I was going in the back, I heard him on his interview, and he was saying his cardio wasn't the best, and he wanted to work on that and get back in the gym more. So I'm thinking he's going to push his cardio, and he's going to go back to his base style, which is wrestling. You know, wrestle out JUCO and stuff, so he's a pretty good wrestler. Whereas Sabah is he's a brawler, street fighter.
Definitely a brawler.
He actually fought on the same card that night, had a knockout. So I think that's what he's going to do. He's going to come out.
He's going to come out and brawl,
make a statement, try to vault himself in the top 10, top 5 or whatever, you know.
So to sum it up, you think Homasi's going to come out and try and brawl. Ward's going to say no way, take him to the ground, bank some rounds, get the win, maybe get the finish on the ground.
Yeah,
that sounds about right.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you kind of in the back were talking to Ward, or at least overheard him saying that his cardio was not quite where it needed to be?
Yeah, so like after they walk you out of Bellator, you talk to the doctors and stuff, and I was super emotional after I was really angry. I felt like they kind of stopped it a little early, but
they wanted to make sure he got the win. They were trying to get that out of there quick.
I kind of maybe thought that too. I was in the hometown, whatever, but I was a little rocked, but I wasn't like unconscious, you know.
You were standing.
I was still standing, and my legs were still solid, you know. So I kind of felt like it was a little, but whatever. So we go to the back, and I didn't actually shake his hand, so I want to apologize for not being sportsmanlike like that.
It's easy to do when you're frustrated.
Yeah, and I kind of threw my hat, and I was a little upset. In the back, you know, they were talking in an interview, and they were actually really close to me, and I kind of snapped. I was like, can you get them away from me? Because I could hear what they were talking about. He was like kind of saying, oh, how he beat me and whatever. So
so there was a little tension originally.
Yeah, okay. Back there, and this commission was like, hey, stop it. And I was like, you know, said some stuff, but I eventually apologized and, you know, shook his hand and stuff. But
you guys buried the hatchet. That's good.
That's cool. So it's just hard sometimes when you know, your emotions. You're a fighter. You know? It's hard. You can't just be a fighter.
Can't turn it off.
2 seconds and then you got to be a nice guy the next. No, man, you're a fighter. it's a control thing.
That's something I've always okay, a lot of people give me flack for this, but I can never understand how guys right after the fight's over, they get to like hugging and they're best buds, and I'm like, how?
I don't know, some people have that in them, but me, I'm just a competitor. I hate to lose.
Yeah.
That's like my biggest thing. I hate losing, so if I lose, it's really, really hard for me to, I gotta be a peer to the
takes a little while, yeah.
In the crowd, you know, you're gonna be that guy, you know.
You can't do it immediately. You got to get a minute, right?
But you got to take that loss, and it's hard to swallow, man. Mm-hmm. That pride is hard to swallow. So just you got to grit it out.
Yes, you do.
It's part of the game. You know, this game is grimy. When people ask me, like, you want to get in MMA, what are you going to expect? I said, it's tough, man. It's grimy. Like, it's not a cakewalk. People put this image like it's easy. But it might be easy for some people, but it's not. Like, if you really want it, you have to work hard, grind, and go through dark times and push yourself through things that you don't think is possible. Like, you know, you're bleeding, you're sweaty, you're tired, you can't breathe, someone's laying on you. Like, you want to quit, but you don't. You push through it, and you get that win. It's the most amazing feeling ever.
The win makes it worth it.
It's crazy.
The losses suck.
It sucks.
The losses are rough.
You need that loss though to vault you back to that. It's like griminess, you know, to just wanting more. Like,
so the losses kind of give you the motivation to get the wins.
Yeah.
So like when you get on, so we've seen guys do this in Bellator, UFC, all the highest level. When they start getting a lot of wins together, maybe they become champion, and then they start to like not look so good. And a lot of them do that even at an age before they start hitting that like downward peak physically. Do you think that's because they've just won so many in a row and they haven't had anything to remind them they need that win sometimes?
I think it's they call it the champions row, where they just get all these fights and they don't get guys that are like pushing them. You know what I mean? So I'm the champ, so they get a little complacent. Whereas when you're the champ, that's where you got to step it up more. You know everybody's coming for you, so you got to push it even harder. So that's the last time you people they get the title and they're like, oh, I can relax now. But actually, you got to hit the gas harder and go even harder because everybody's coming for you now.
That's the truth.
Target on your back,
so guys that get that title and they can hold it for a long time, those are the elite of the elite then. And what do you think they do differently that most fighters struggle with in order to keep that motivation to keep winning?
Staying active.
Staying active?
They're not just after a fight, you know, like putting on 20, 30 pounds and chilling and going back 6-8 weeks, try to cut. They're staying in the gym, staying on pads, staying consistent, where it's not, you know, their camp is easy because they're already in shape and they don't
that makes sense.
That much, so.
Yeah, so staying active is what keeps people on there. So back to the Brennan Ward fight. One last little bit on that. Now, so I'm sure you were familiar with Brennan Ward before you took that fight.
Yeah.
You've probably seen his career, you know, however 5 years or so prior before he'd taken the hiatus. He was 1-3 in his last 4 fights before leaving for that time. He did have a flash knockout of Syed Awad. But other than that, he'd not looked very good in his last few fights. Obviously, he was dealing with some things. The Brennan Ward back then, do you think he is better or worse than the Brennan Ward of today? Do you think that 5 years off actually improved his skills, or he's still a little bit rusty?
Nah, man. When he came back, I felt like he was a game opponent. You know, whatever he went through, he had to push himself through some dark places, like I was talking about. You know, to go through something like that, you have to really grind something, find something in yourself, you know. So
those dark places you were talking about, yep.
And you know, that's the athlete in a fighter. You just kind of find that athlete in you that pushes you through that. I'm guessing that's what he did too, because that's a hard thing to overcome, addiction and addiction like that, opiates, you know. So
and it took him 5 years to get back.
That's
so I mean,
the hardest
long time.
to beat. So I mean, he came back from it, and I think he's going to do great. It's going to be a good fight. I
think it's going to be a great fight. And now, like I said, that's Bellator 290. It's February 4th. If you haven't seen it already, I've done a full breakdown of the card. It's on the channel. So if you haven't checked it out already, make sure to do that. Also, like this video while you're at it. We appreciate it. Now, let's tell everybody where they can find you. You know, any socials you want to plug, or any fights you may have coming up, or any way that they can keep in tap with you and maybe find out when your next fights are and how they can get tickets and how they can buy it online.
Yeah, I got a fight page, Kassius Kayne on Facebook, or you can follow me on Instagram, Kassius Kayne 05, Twitter 05 Kayne.
Awesome.
I was pretty much post all my stuff on there.
All in there, awesome. And I will link all those pages in the description of this video. Make sure you follow him. Make sure you check out all his fight news because he's gonna have fights coming up soon. He's gonna be dabbling in the kickboxing, maybe the bare knuckle boxing, maybe he's getting back into MMA, you never know. But this guy's gonna be active. Like he said, you gotta stay active, right?
Yeah.
So make sure you check that out and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done it already. We'll see you guys in the next one.